Chapter 23-24. What will the Shandians who've been suffering for 400 years do to their enemies? Gonfal thought with sweats forming in his head. Don't worry, Amon said from behind. We won't do any dash. Before he could say anything, Gonfal rode his bird as it transformed into a Pegasus. Pierre, let's go. Without wasting his time on Amon, Gonfal tried to fly to that spot. However, Amon stopped him. Wait, using Jeppo. Along with his shooters, Amon floated in front of them. I need to ask you about the golden bell, Amon asked, floating. In truth, Amon already knew the location of the bell, but he was just preserving for time. According to what he had calculated, Gonfal should only see the situation in the formation after 20 minutes. If not, his plans might fail and Gamfal has to die. Golden bell? Gonfal asked, confused. Soon, he frowned as his veins became visible. He doesn't know any golden bell. Is he playing with him? Young warrior, currently the battle has already taken above 200 militia's life. Don't you think it's enough? There is no need to kill all of them, is there? Gamefall said. Now get out of my way, or I shall hurt you, he said with all seriousness. However, Amon didn't move. I will say this again, the war is over, we don't want any bloodshed. You do not need to worry about the rest of the militia, they will be safe. Now tell me about the golden bell. Amon then frowned. Don't tell me, did you hide it? He asked as he looked at Gonfal suspiciously. However, Gonfal had his people to save, as above air. He dashed towards Amon with his lance. Forgive me, young warrior, but you called this upon yourself. Chee-hee. The Pegasus roared as it reached close to Amon. Me neither, he shouted. If you really plan to hide the location of us Shandorians' ethical bell, then I shall also go all out. As if he was truly enraged, Amon shouted and also rushed towards him. So the battle for the sky began. A few minutes have passed, and on the other side, around the formation where God's army was being held hostage, something strange was happening. Name? Warashi asked towards a tied militia with a notebook and pen in his hand. Something strange, actually very strange, was happening at this place right now. No, the Shandians weren't killing nor hurting any militias, rather they were noting their personal information, and then strangely, they were freeing them one by one, ordering them to get out of the upper yard. Obviously, without any other way, the militia told them their information, and after being freed, they ran away without looking back. By this time the tribe's chief had also reached the upper yard and was standing on a side, with Shandians surrounding him. Chief, is this a good idea to let them go? We have been oppressed for 400 years by them, a random Shandian asked. The chief sighed. You guys have no idea. We have been striving for peace for all our life. Now that there is a chance to get it, then why waste the chance? He said. We have already killed more than 200 of them, yet we didn't lose anyone from our side, isn't that enough? He then continued. Also, let's not forget it's all thanks to Amon and his strategy. Chief then looked at everyone as they also looked back. Do you guys know how worried he was that you guys won't accept him doing this? They stayed silent. His father, meaning Viper's brother, Cobra, was the first person who wanted to initiate peace between us. The chief deliberately hid the fact that the previous chief killed him. That would only complicate things. But he died trying to do so, but here is Amon, his son, a 10-year-old child, almost achieving this. Do you all want to destroy everything by killing these guys too? The chief then took a big breath. Hasn't enough blood been shed? He roared as everyone stayed silent. Yes, Dewey replied from the side. We don't want to see any more blood. We have had enough. As he said, slowly everyone nodded their heads. In truth, the chief had been supporting Amon's father, Cobra's actions from the beginning. However, Cobra was the front, so nobody ever knew about the chief, or the previous chief might have even killed him, his son. The chief then thought with a guilty heart. I hate to admit, but I've been manipulating Amon from a young age to make him not into a person like Viper. He felt guilty that he had manipulated a child. However, that's the precise reason why he is initiating peace today. I'm happy that this war will now stop. It's for the greater good. Though the chief had good thoughts behind his manipulation, he still felt guilty. However, unbeknownst to him, he was the one who was being manipulated all along. I am sorry, young warrior, I'm sorry. In the sky, Amon was fighting, or more specifically conserving time, as Gonfal flew towards him with an impact dial. Impact! Amon evaded the attack swiftly. Then he took out a ball dial, producing many cloud balls that floated in the sky. This let him jump on them to get a better mobility in the sky. Just as Amon was trying to stabilize himself, Gonfal tried to ignore him, and instead rushed towards the formation. His main priority wasn't Amon after all. However, Amon stopped him once again, as he threw a smoke bomb dial in his way. Just now, Amon had spotted the Shandorian golden belfry, a little far from here. He can't let Gonfal go now. Before, though Amon had guessed where the bell was, he never saw it in person since for that he needed to climb the giant jack. But he never had the opportunity to do so because that would have got him caught. There is a reason other than hindering Gonfal in this fight, and that was to reach the bell. He wants to defeat him by making him crash to the bell, just like Luffy did to Enel. That way, many things will be solved at once. Perfect plan. Amon mostly was dodging his attacks, however. He was slowly, but surely pinning Gonfal towards the bell, without the other party's awareness. Young warrior, stop this. You are strong, but I need to go down and save my people. Please. Gonfal even stooped so low to beg Amon, as his people's life mattered more than his self-respect as god. Shut up, Amon yelled. I'm asking you, where is the bell? Amon, as if not being able to take it anymore, jumped on a cloud ball, then kicked hardly and rapidly towards Gonfal. Tempest kick. He used the Rolushiki Renkyaku. Though he can't produce a wind blade that can slice people in half yet, he was able to perform what he expected, as a compressed wind blade got released from his legs, and it hit Gonfal. Arg! Blood spurt from his chest. While the Pegasus lost its balance, Gonfal flew a few hundred meters back, and he hit something hard. Gah! Dying! 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 It was the Shandorian golden bell. Asterisk. Down in the blue sea, on the small part of Jaya that was left behind, a muscular man with a chestnut PM his head got up from the sea as he started to walk towards his strange-looking house. Sigh. Maybe Noland really was a liar in the end. Sky Island. He is Cricket, a descendant of Noland the liar. Maybe it's all fake, he said while stopping in his path, lowering his head. Inji. Ha! Inji. What's that sound? Inji. Where is that coming from? Don't tell me the sky. The sound of the golden bell reached the blue sea, as people from Jaya wondered about the source of it, except for Cricket, who was laughing and jumping around that place. His ancestor wasn't a liar. His life is also not a lie. Asterisk. Boom boom. Amon flew at Gonfal's place using his shooters, and the first thing he did was to run towards the golden bell. It was massive, made of pure gold, shining under the sunlight. It had vines surrounding it, however, that only increased its beauty. Amon's eyes were shining seeing this. Golden bell, he said, enchanted by greed. Cough, cough. Amon sprouts out of his thought, and turns his head and sees Gonfal coughing blood. He was laying on his back and looked injured, but it wasn't that serious. Is this the bell you are looking for? He asked barely. Yes, it seems you were not hiding it. Sorry. Amon said as if he was truly sorry. Gonfal stayed silent. Well, it matters not anymore. Gonfal looked at the blue sky above him. The dark clouds were slowly fading away, as a clear blue sky was showing up. Is this the mystical bell Cobra told of me before? He asked himself. A few seconds passed as he opened his mouth again. By now, every militia must have been executed already, he said in a hardly audible voice. Amon looked at him with his fake confusion. What do you mean? Why would they be executed? Gonfal frowned hearing him. Didn't I tell you that the Shandians will free all the captured militia? He said as Gonfal lifted his head up. What are you talking about? With a strange gleam of hope in his eyes, he asked. Well, Amon again took out his binoculars and threw them towards him. You can take a look yourself. Gonfal quickly put his eyes in them, as his eyes became wide in surprise. Applis en surprise. Vevat. The gods' militia, they are getting freed one by one. I mean, how could you have expected me to kill the militia? Amon said. After all, my father, Cobra, died trying to realize this dream. If I do the complete opposite, then won't his death be pointless? Gonfal's expression froze again, as he abruptly moved his head towards Amon. Why you are Cobra's son? Why you are Amon? He asked in disbelief. Are you really Amon, the child who I picked the name of? He yelled as Amon just laughed. Amon scratched his head. Well, yes, I guess so. Never knew you named me though, he said with a chuckle. The world is a small place after all. Soon Gonfal also started to laugh. Ha 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 ha. He laughed as if he had gotten his life back and gained something new, and deep down, he became greatly indebted and grateful to the Shandians. Though many of them died in today's battle, he couldn't complain. This is a war going on for 400 years, where most of the time, the militia from each generation were the ones to massacre the other side. Considering this, he didn't have enough remorse to complain about something that already happened. Soon, Amon ignored the golden bell for now, and with the injured Gonfall and his Pegasus, he came down to where everyone else was there. People saw him coming with Gonfall, but they didn't give him any glance as they looked at Amon alone. Hearing the bell and seeing Gonfall clad in blood, the winner was clear to them. Ashayamon. It was Isa. After hearing the giant bell, all the tribesmen were here from the hidden cloud village. Even Isa with the 6-month-old Isa came here. That sound, Chief cut her. Was that the ancient bell that our ancestors mentioned? He asked, excited. Hey, tell us. Everyone was asking questions, but Amon just smiled looking at them. He didn't answer it directly. Who knows, maybe it was just me making weird sounds. People exclaimed their disappointment, but they were fully aware of his cheeky behavior. In the first place, the question was just rhetorical. They were just in disbelief. They ran towards Amon and started to happily chatter with him. How they let the militia go, how none of them died, and most importantly, how happy they were hearing the bell's sound. Beside them, Gonfall looked at them with wide eyes. This was the Shandya tribe that his ancestors have been oppressing for 400 years. Happy tribe. How did they live until now? However, nobody was there to answer him currently, as Amon just looked at him. Then looking back to the tribesmen, he said, Guys, I have decided to let him, God Gonfall, live. He said in a serious voice. Do any of you oppose this idea? He asked even though he knew their answers. The tribesmen stayed silent, as they looked at each other's faces. 400 years. They have been oppressed for 400 years by the man and his ancestors before them. Would they let him go? No, Isa said. Nobody opposes that idea. This has ended for real. We don't want to start it again by killing him, she said as she looked around. The god's army has already been freed, aren't they? Then there is no need for us to do anything to him. Make no mistake, Dewey said looking at Gonfall. We don't like you at all. In truth, we hate you and want to kill you, you bastard. He said as his eyes became teary and his hand holding the gun shook. He wanted to blow his head right now. His wife died starving only because the tribe didn't have food back then. If they lived in the upper yard, nothing like this would have happened. He hated the one responsible, these fake gods. He wanted to kill him right now, and he wasn't alone. Each and every one of the Shandians wanted to kill him. But you are lucky that our leader is a good boy man, a good man, Dewey said. Gonfall looked at Amon as he just smiled. Get out, you old bastard, never show your face here again. He said with a sweet smile, but Gonfall found no resentment in his words. Slightly bowing his head, Gonfall took off his dignified robe, representing him leaving his position as god, and then he started to walk away with his bird. However, not so far. He stopped and looked back. Doing a 90 degrees bow, he said, I love pumpkin juice. General POV. A few minutes ago. Dying. When Amon rang the bell with the help of Gonfall hitting it, the bell's sound even reached 10,000 meters below, reaching the leftover of Jaya. The Skypieans also heard it. What's this? The earth is singing. Don't tell me, is this the sound of the bell from the legends? I can't believe it. It rang after 400 years. The Skypieans were dumbfounded, but they were more interested in what caused the bell to ring. Does this mean the war between them and the Shandians has ended, finally? It didn't take them long to learn it for real, as soon after, one by one God's militia started to come out from the forbidden upper yard. On the other hand, the large snake Nola went mad as it was running around with tears falling from its eyes along with a happy smile on its face. She recalled the days from 400 years ago, how Kalgara used to ring this very bell every day, how this sound was her most favorite. Who would have thought, even after 400 years, she would feel the same happiness hearing that sound? On the other hand, the Shandians were standing proudly, with tears falling from their eyes like fountains. This tear was from pure bliss, from pure happiness. The war has ended. The golden bell that started it all has finally ended it all too. Kalgara, the chief said as teats were falling from his eyes. Do you hear? The war has ended. We have gotten our land back. Tears covered his whole face. We have won. The war had ended. They wanted to kill the ones responsible for this, but unfortunately, they have already perished with time. The current god and his militia aren't the culprits for this. Yes, they still did wrong to them, but the Shandians didn't want to continue this war any longer by seeking revenge. All for the sake of Kalgara. A few hours later. More. Today is a day of celebration. It was night time, and Gonfall had already left. Currently, only the Shandians were inhabiting the island, their homeland. They were celebrating after their one-sided win. Everyone was present there, but they weren't eating seafoods like they usually do at a feast. Today they were eating fruits, fresh and juicy fruits. Asterisk munch, asterisk, asterisk munch. Amon was also pouring fruits into his mouth, while many kids were sitting around him, also eating. They just had a small celebration with their leader, and now after doing that for the whole day, they were now dead tired. "Hey, start the bonfire already," Dewey shouted, as some teenagers quickly prepared the bonfire. Today was the day of celebration. Today they will eat meat. Eating fish and seafoods their whole life, they had a kick for meat. Just as valuable gold was to Blue Sea people, meat was more valuable to the Sky people, especially Shandians. Sniff, sniff. As the crispy scent of cooked meat entered Amon's nose, his mouth became watery. "Can't believe I only had 9 meals with meat in my 10-years-old life," Amon thought as he chuckled. "Yet now I can have meat, fruits, and everything I want. Upper yard is min weight." Suddenly Amon realized he isn't a god yet, or at least, not officially. "Well, let this feast end first. Then I will see," Amon thought as he shifted his concentration back to the meal. A few hours have passed. One would notice a giant snake sleeping not far behind Amon. A while ago, the snake came here with saliva dripping from her mouth. She didn't attack them though. She clearly recognized the people of Shandia. There was her master. Not only Nola the snake, but even the kids were also sleeping all around Amon. Riki had her head on his lap, as she had also fallen asleep. Along with baby Isa, Ise was also beside him with her eyes almost closed. Kids like Wiper, Kamakiri, Braham were also around him, asleep. Amon was still eating, as he was quite tired from the constant kick he had to do for Jeppo. He needed energy, and the meat's the best source of it. While eating, Amon was looking ahead of him. There, the chief was sitting with all the tribesmen surrounding him, with the expectation of the kids around Amon. They were seemingly discussing something, as Amon tried to pray using his observation hockey. Amon chuckled internally hearing their topic of discussion. Soon, without any more thoughts, Amon also fell asleep. Next day morning. "Hey Amon, wake up." Chief was there, shaking Amon's body as he slowly opened his eyes. "Yawn." "Hey Chief." Yawning, Amon got up, as he noticed Riki wasn't on his lap anymore. "What is it?" "Today is the day after the celebration. We need more sleep." "Yawn," he said while rubbing his eyes. Without saying anything more, the chief placed his staff on Amon's hand and quickly walked back. Rubbing his eyes, Amon blinked seeing what was in front of him. Shandians were standing in front of him in a line, with their heads down with serious looks on their faces. Even Riki, Isa, and Wiper were amongst them. Amon could guess what was happening but still made a surprised face. Hey guys, what's going on?" he asked as though clueless. The chief who lifted his head up with pride and said, "You will soon learn what this means, Amon. But first, we Shandians are the descendants of the great Shandorians. The inhabitants of the City of Gold 800 years ago. The Shandorians' kingdom was invaded by an alliance of 20 kingdoms." He continued, strong emotions welling up within him as he talked about the long-lost glorious past of his ancestors. The Shandorians' kingdom fell, but the people didn't give up, and what was once a great kingdom has now been reduced to what you see now. A small tribe which came to be known as the Shandians. We were bestowed with the duty to protect the golden belfry bell that contained the poneglyph, and we protected it for centuries until Kalgara's time. He then stopped for a moment and took a deep breath. Kalgara, with his overwhelming power, protected Jaya Island, our home from outsiders for a long time until the arrival of Mont Blanc Noland. He was a good man, as he brought us out from the delusion that a snake can't be God, and sacrificing our own children for prosperity doesn't work. Amon understood that Noland hadn't managed to convince everyone, as some people still believed the nonsense after all. He had almost become a sacrifice himself. After that, Mont Noland left, and Kalgara kept ringing the bell, so that one day he would return. However, we didn't get the chance to meet him for the second time, as our homeland was shot up to the sky. There we met the Skypieans, and one of them claimed to be God. They had the audacity to call themselves God. The tribe had already stopped believing in God by then. Chief said with force in his voice. We got into a war with them, which Kalgara started by ringing the bell before his death, thus leaving the burden of war for his descendants to carry. He said with a bitter tone. In the end, Kalgara failed to protect our land. He was a great warrior, but he failed the one duty he had. Amon smirked internally. The tribe worshipped Kalgara and revered him. Although, it was a good thing since I am his descendant, but now that I am strong enough not to need that privilege, there is no need to hide behind his title, he thought. After all, I can't be known as Amon, the great warrior who is Kalgara's descendant. Rather, I would have to make a name for myself to gain these fools' absolute loyalty. Amon thought as he looked towards the chief, who had a bitter expression. Weighing this, he chuckled internally. For me, I get their absolute loyalty. I had to break the perfect image they have of him and replace it with mine, he thought. Which I already did, since that's why the chief has that expression. Chief used to tell stories about Calgara at least 3 times a day. This was kind of annoying, however. Amon knew how to use these situations perfectly. Whenever he told a brave story of Calgara, Amon used to point out flaws in Calgara's actions. Though he never went too far and did not badmouth Calgara, since these fucked up tribesmen might have attempted to do something stupid. Amon had slowly chipped away at the old man's beliefs, and they had eroded to today's extent where Calgara's good deeds were overshadowed by his implanted failures. Old man Chief didn't know, but he was already dancing in Amon's palm. But the next moment, every one of the Shandians kneeled in front of Amon, except the chief, who just continued. So, after 400 years, when someone has done something that Calgara wasn't able to achieve, he then slowly started to walk towards him. He has sincerely surpassed Calgara by doing something Calgara himself failed to achieve. With a garland in his hand, he stopped in front of Amon. That someone is you, warrior Amon. It's great warrior Amon now. A smile bloomed on his face as he looked at Amon, looking at him with wide eyes. Yes, you have surpassed Calgara. You have completed the duty that our ancestors had bestowed us upon. You have succeeded, he said as he stopped in front of Amon. Silence. A short silence took place as the kneeling figures looked at their leader with a proud smile. They felt proud that they were lucky enough to be born in this era and have Amon as their leader, a leader who surpassed the great Calgara. So now, the chief then continued, I, as the tribe chief of Shandia, declare you warrior Amon. He then put the garland around Amon's neck. As the great warrior Amon, the warrior greater than Calgara, the new god of Upper Yard. Immediately after this, everyone bowed and touched their heads on the ground. Even the chief followed them and did the same. Amon's face showed an expression of shock, as though he couldn't believe what had transpired in front of him. However, his thoughts were quite diverse. Well, isn't this the best feeling of the world? Such loyalty, such reverence, is this how being a god feels like? Amon thought with an internal chuckle. Hey god, are you seeing this? He called out towards his imaginary god. You killed me back then, and now look, I'm Gu. I have become the fucking god. Ironic, isn't it? He asked himself as he almost yelled in exhilaration. Amon almost lost his cool and burst out laughing. The feeling of power over so many people was intoxicating and exhilarating, but he knew he couldn't get carried away by this feeling. However, phoo! He just sighed. I must not grow too excited about this. After all, this is only the beginning. Then, looking at the people below, he opened his mouth. Everyone, get your asses up from the ground. As the new god, I, Amon, shall order all of you, each and every one of you. He took a deep breath. To train yourselves to death. Only so, that Calgara's history doesn't repeat itself.